And if you are following this show on Jambo Radio social media, you can send us a DM on Facebook. We are Jambo Radio Scotland. On Twitter, we are Jambo Radio at Jambo Radio Scott. And on Instagram, we are jamboradio.scotland. You can also email us at info@jamboradio.co.uk. If you haven't yet, you can now download Jambo Radio Scotland mobile app, available in App Store for those of you on iPhone and or iOS devices, and Google Play for Android devices. So it's Jambo Radio Scotland when you want to download that. Dechomai is a community interest company, and its mission is to cultivate an ecosystem that ignites passion, support ideas, and cultivate success within ethnic minority communities. The head of strategy, operations, and sustainability is Kojo Amoyaw-Osei. Is that the right pronunciation?
Yes.
And he joins me at the studio. I'm glad I got that okay, because I always struggle with those names that are joined. I'm okay with the single name, but when they come together, it's always difficult. So, maybe we'll start by giving us a bit of the activities that Dechomai does.
Okay, George. Thank you for that, and glad to be here.
You're
Glad
welcome.
to be here. Thank you for everybody listening and those watching as well. Yes, so Dechomai, like you mentioned, we're a social enterprise. Our focus is to stimulate entrepreneurship within the ethnic minority community, and that comes in the form of helping businesses start up. So a lot of ideation programs. We also help businesses scale up, and we do a lot of research as well, because as many are aware, you've started a business yourself, Joe, so you know the kind of barriers that ethnic minorities face. So we do a lot of research around all these things to help promote a more sustainable entrepreneurship ecosystem for the ethnic minority, Black and ethnic minority community in Scotland.
Wonderful. And I know, with those activities, how does Dechomai go about, achieving their mission?
Okay. Oh, thank you for that question, George. A lot of collaboration. So the core values of Dechomai, we have two E's and two C's. And these two C's are basically community and collaboration, and the two E's are equity and empowerment.
Okay.
So a lot of the things we do in Dechomai, we don't do alone. We believe strongly in collaboration. Whenever we come up with a new idea, the first thing we think about is who can we partner to make sure that we create the kind of impact. So you go on our website, you see that a lot of the things we do, there are always so many partners, so many both partners from the larger ecosystem and partnerships within the ethnic minority Black community, just to create that rapport. We see ourselves as business midwives, playing that role of connecting the larger entrepreneurship ecosystem with the ethnic minority space, and that's our uniqueness, that we're so connected with both sides, and we bring both sides together to help with the sustainability.
That's wonderful. So it's collaboration,
exactly.
Partnering.
Exactly.
So the activities always start with who do we need to work with.
Yes.
And how do we work with them?
Exactly.
What do we want to achieve?
Definitely.
I know the founder of Dechomai has been on Jambo Radio before and explained what Dechomai is all about. So I'll ask you, I know some of the groundbreaking work that you people are doing, and you also got, you're working on something which I think is a research which you're going to come. I don't know how much you can talk about that. Is there much you can talk about that? I mean, it will be launched in a couple of weeks.
Exactly.
So we're waiting for that. We can't wait to basically have that final report. It's really groundbreaking work. Can you mention anything around that?
Yes. Not to give too much away.
Yes.
So yes, like you said, a lot very groundbreaking work. I think with Dechomai, the vision of the company has always been to go where the problem is.
Oh yes.
So that we can create some change. So this particular research, not to give too much away, I'm sure we'll be back very soon in a couple of weeks' time.
No, definitely.
When it's launched, but it's basically around some of these issues we are seeing within the ethnic minority community and how we can help. So we've done some research. We've come up with some recommendations. We're speaking with all the partners, basically, from both the ethnic minority entrepreneurs, the government, all the ecosystem builders, and yes. Let's keep it as a surprise.
Yeah, I know. There's very little you can say about that, and I know. I was asking. When I initially sent the invitation, it was about having a discussion about what has been the findings so far, and I think it's a good opportunity for me to also say, as Jambo Radio, we did participate in part of that research, and also we encourage and we want to congratulate anyone or appreciate anyone that any entrepreneur, social enterprise entrepreneur who contributed in that, or community groups that contributed in that, because this are fact. I mean, for us as a broadcaster, we are more interested in data. Now, I'll just ask you. I mean, you are in charge of strategy, and I'm sure at Dechomai, so I'm sure data is very important to you, isn't it? Yeah, is it quality or quantity?
Interesting question.
I know you were not expecting that.
No, I wasn't expecting this question, but it's a brilliant question. So quality or quantity?
Yes.
I would say
in the realm of, within the remit of your work, at Dechomai.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I know the founder is quite big on data. But in terms of you being in charge of strategy, what are you looking for?
For me, I think it's even more important. So let me just give a little background about what I do generally. So strategy, operations, sustainability. So strategy in terms of what's the vision? How are we going to get there? What do we need to get there? Operations is executing that.
Yep.
And then sustainability is how do we keep this going?
Yes. The future.
Exactly. And what allows me to make the best decisions is information. If you have the right information, it allows you to make the best decisions. Without information, you are basically guessing. Recently, we've realized that with the onset of data analytics, a lot more information, a lot more companies are able to make a lot more sound decisions. And it's no different for a company like Dechomai. And that's why we do a lot of research. You understand? A lot of research. So when we hold networking events, when we hold programs, when we hold courses, we're always collecting data so that we can make the best decisions. If you want to help someone, you want to help a community, how do you do that? How do you know that what you're offering is what the people actually need? If you have the data that allows you to then make these sort of decisions. So yes. So that's why we are so big on research. We're so big on data.
But you wouldn't say the entire activity of Dechomai is based on just doing research. It's not a research company.
No. So it's not just research, but after we do that research,
training.
Then so you'd realize that Dechomai, we develop courses.
Okay.
But these courses are not courses that we would just like sit in a room and say, hey, you know what? Maybe let's do this course. It might be fun. No. All the courses are based on research that have been carried out to identify certain gaps, certain limitations, certain barriers. And then these courses are then created, to address these barriers, because we're seeing those loopholes in the enterprise space, basically. Yes.
There is always reading out what Dechomai does, and basically cultivate an ecosystem. And there is always the understanding of ecosystem, especially within the social enterprise space, because sometimes what I've seen is, I mean, there's a lot of people that are doing brilliant work, and who are social entrepreneurs, but it is defining, what is an ecosystem that, as a social entrepreneur, can tap into. It's always a struggle. I know it's, maybe you'll come out with some of your findings once you launch the final report of this. But do you come across, when you hold workshops and at Dechomai, do you people find, in terms of conversations, do you get information of people who are struggling to understand which ecosystem they can tap into in terms of their entrepreneurial activities?
Oh yes. Oh yes. With conversations around entrepreneurs that we help, conversations around other ethnic minority entrepreneurs in Scotland, yes, the finding where to fit in is definitely a problem that most ethnic minority businesses face. And I mean, that's largely because things seem a bit complicated. And then it's also hard for them to also find information, and I think to a large extent, the avenues haven't been created for there to be enough of a collaboration. The pathway is not clear. Someone comes to Scotland today and they feel like they want to start a business. The pathway is not clear for them. So, but the truth is, these networks are there. These institutions are there. They may not be perfect, but they are there. It's just about creating the awareness, creating the interlinkages. So that's one of the things Dechomai does. So we do a lot of signposting because we know that we don't have all the answers, but we might just know who would be the best person for you to speak to. Imagine you want to create a tech business, and you need to link up with, let's say, the Glasgow tech community. You need to link up with a particular incubator that deals with tech businesses. We can easily connect you with these organizations, and it's such an interesting sort of ecosystem we have in Glasgow. All the institutions that need to play vital roles, they are there. And like I said, they may not be perfect, but it's just finding, how do you find them? And that's where, let's say, creating a network, let's say within the ethnic minority space, creating the network, so that if George, you decide that, okay, I want to start this business, who is the first person I need to speak to? If I need funding for the business, who should I go to? If I'm thinking of a co-founder, which group of people can I speak to who might point me in the right direction or connect me to which place to go? And that's what we need to do. We are too isolated. We're too isolated. It's like everyone is on their own island trying to do their own thing. The trust.
What do you think is the cause? What do you think is the cause of that isolation? Is it the lack of networking opportunities? Is it also the fact that there are no structures in place where, I mean, Dechomai is existing now? Maybe people can find out. The lack of information could also be the fact that people are not making an effort.
So it's a multiplicity of issues.
Right, okay.
I think a lot of it has to do with cultural barriers. When I do a little mind mapping, I think most things point back to cultural barriers. A lot of the ethnic minority community are people who were not born here.
Yeah, majority. Yes.
Majority. We're not born here.
The first generation now in Scotland. Yeah.
Exactly. So they come with their own cultural understanding, social understanding of how things should be or things are. But things are completely different here. Things are completely different. So they have to learn and unlearn so much. But that awareness is not there enough. I mean, if I use myself as an example, even speaking about like racism and things like that, I was interestingly, I was born here, but didn't stay here long, and then went back to
in Scotland.
Yes,
right.
Born in Aberdeen.
Born in Aberdeen.
and we went back to Ghana about, I think, 2.5 years after I was born. So my experience was mostly in Ghana. My experience of what racism is was what I would see on TV, which is very, very different from actually experiencing it in person. So even I had to learn what it felt like, or what if someone was actually being racist, what it looked like. You understand? When it comes to entrepreneurship, people moving here, people trying to start businesses, and back home, people don't trust the government so much. I mean, we have reasons for that.
Yeah, of course.
People come here building trust amongst themselves, even in their own community, before building trust with others. It's not easy. It takes time. It takes effort, and that's even one of the major limiting factors. So trust, and it comes back to social construct, cultural limitations. So a lot of awareness creation is needed. A lot of education on our part, and it's not just education on the part of the entrepreneurs, but education of the larger ecosystem. Because the entrepreneurs don't have to do all the changing to fit in. Yeah,
and just to make the listeners kind of, some people might to understand clearly, when you say the education of the entrepreneurs and then the wider ecosystem, you're meaning investors, potential investors that can invest in the entrepreneurs concept or ideas, and funding funders.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So that's why that is
exactly.
Just to kind of make that clear.
Yes. So funders, business support organizations as well, because some of the things we've realized is even the sort of business support that's available is not culturally or socially sensitive to a lot of the ethnic minorities. So even that, how do you now speak to these business support organizations, say, hey, could you look at this? Could you audit the kind of support you're giving, and maybe why you're not having a lot more, giving out a lot more support to ethnic minority communities? Is there something more you can do? Just simple things like that. But a lot of introspection and a lot of self-awareness, so that we know where we are, and when we know the kind of things we need to do to improve.
Wonderful. I think I can have this conversation with you all day, because I think one of the things that I, just because you've highlighted in there, which is very interesting, you are a guy born in Aberdeen, and then but most of your experience, your life experience, has been in Ghana, and then now as a young adult you return home. Is that how it feels?
To a large extent,
yes.
Okay. So I came back for my master's, which was in Strathclyde. Wonderful experience, and I think that there is some connection there to Scotland, and I think I've since 2018 I've loved being here. I think to some extent, even moving around in Glasgow feels a bit more homely
Okay.
than parts of even Ghana. I know my Ghanaians will not be happy.
Said I have to sell Ghana. I have to sell Ghana.
Yeah,
No, but
yeah,
it's you know, I think it's a dynamics, isn't it?
Yes,
In terms
yes.
of you know, that cultural transnational mindset. You know, I was speaking to Dr. Samuel Mwara, who is a lecturer in entrepreneur.
yes, I know him.
You
Yes,
know him.
yes, yes.
Well, this is small world. Okay, I'm not going to mention names again. Okay, so and you know, one of the things that you know, in terms of the the African diaspora, you know, because the question was, what should the African diaspora be doing? Should they be investing where they are or investing where they're originally from? You know, so those are things that we're looking at this aspect. So I know that's not what you're here for, but I think I can hear your opinion. I'm happy to listen.
Interesting question.
Yes. Because you will be a typical
Yes.
African diasporan,
Yes.
in the sense that in the context of birth and those rights, and then also your upbringing, and then the reconnection to both your cultures, we can say that in the context of it being born in Scotland, growing up in Ghana, returning to Scotland.
It's such an interesting thing. Me personally, I think with my upbringing, work life, I have always been sort of attracted to where the problem is.
Okay. Well, we have a lot of problems here. I'm afraid we can't talk much on this because we've got to go. The news is coming up and the time is up. Kojo, you are the head of strategy at head of strategy, operations, and sustainability at the Dechomai. And of course, we want to thank you very much. Thank you for your work.
Thank you too.
I'm
Thank
sure
you.
we'll have more opportunities to talk,
Definitely.
and especially when the final report on the research comes out as well.
Yes.
That's it for this week. Hopefully next week.